Let's go for it! I like the dark stuff. Give me the dark stuff. I like the dark stuff. Give me the dark stuff.
Susanna Hoffs,
Yeah.
better known as the singer of the Bangles. Here is their 5-star debut album, all over the place. I love this record. It is so good.
Sue from Susie and the Banshees,
Yes.
and one of my favorite Hyena, one of my favorite Susie records.
Great record.
Awesome.
Hold that up, absolutely.
One.
I'm going to start with
Or your fifth one, whatever,
Ronnie
you know.
Spector of the
Okay.
Ronettes. And so, True Confessions, I really don't own anything by the Ronettes. Sorry. But they were kind of like that first girl band that I remember liking. I'm an old soul, so I like really old music.
Is Tonya Donnelly.
Great
And,
pick.
Tonya Donnelly, the
Great pick.
queen of the indie rock world since the 80s. Because of her, she's in the Throwing Muses. She's a founding member of the Breeders. Her big thing was Belly. And of course, she's been a solo artist.
I picked Dolly. I've always liked Dolly Parton. My parents had good taste in music. My mom liked Dolly Parton a lot. And I've known Dolly Parton since I was a little kid. But it wasn't until I got older in my life and I started liking older country that I really got into Dolly Parton. I mean, she's beautiful. Her voice is amazing. But she has such a vulnerability in her voice, and her lyrics are so good.
I think her voice is just amazing.
It's ridiculous.
And yeah, she's just always had like a special place in my heart, so I had to put her on here.
When she first came out again, that Hey Babe album, and she had that first video, Everybody Loves Me But You. And I love the song. I love the sentiment because it was kind of being sarcastic.
The Polly Jean Harvey,
Oh, she's so
Oh,
good.
yes.
who I have still probably an unhealthy crush on.
Picked Mary Clayton, who is best known. I mean, she's a gospel singer now, but she is best known for singing the backup on Gimme Shelter with the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
My next one is St. Vincent.
I knew
That's-
you.
Figured
That's-
that would be on your list.
And that's not her butt on the cover of the album, by the way. That's a
It isn't?
That's a professional butt model.
I always thought it was her butt.
No, it's not, because she made a point of, she said in some interview, where someone
okay.
asked her and she was like, no, I wish, whatever. I mean, come on.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
So amazing. She looks to me, and I've always said this, like a 40s or 50s movie star. She has that elegance
Totally.
and that classic beauty of like that era. And since I sat just a few feet away from her and I did my interview with her back in the day, and then Keith and I saw her one time at Slow
You've
Down
seen her
in the
twice.
front room. Yeah. Slow Down in the front room was when she was at club level,
Yeah.
you could
Wow.
right up to the front. And then last time was at the
Holland.
the Holland. Yeah.
Oh,
Big room. Big
that would
room.
have been
It
good.
was cool.
Yeah. So I just think she's amazing ever since I heard her first record. And I just was like, fascinated. She has this amazing voice. Her songs have such a unique perspective because they seem like they're about one thing, and then you kind of figure out actually it's completely about something else. And it takes a while to figure that out, or you just never figure it out at all. I mean,
Right.
frankly, I don't know what a lot of her stuff is, but she'll have funny songs like, Jesus Saves, I Spend, something like that, a clever title or whatever. And then there's the aspect of her being a monster guitar player,
Hell,
which
She
is
Yeah.
which
She
is
can-
unique among most artists, frankly, aren't as good as her in terms of just raw talent with the instrument. And she uses it so tastefully that you want it more. Like she knows how to hold back the wailing and the sounds that she makes, the cool shit she does, because she doesn't do it that often. So you kind of crave it. Like, where's the cool guitar part on here,
Yeah.
or where's the whatever? So I got into her based on her first album. Marry Me is what it was called. I didn't know, she had been in Sufjan Stevens' band prior, and she was in that group of Texas hippies.
Was she in the Polyphonic Spree or
Yeah,
something?
the
Yeah.
Polyphonic Spree. She was in the
Oh.
Polyphonic Spree, and then she was in Sufjan Stevens' band, and then she became St. Vincent. And I didn't know of her back then, although I did see Sufjan Stevens on the year or two right before she went out. Her album came out, so maybe I saw her. Maybe she was there at Sokol. I don't really remember.
Well, that's the thing. I saw that show too.
I was bored at it. I thought it sucked personally.
Well, I was bored too. I think that was before we were friends. But
I don't think I knew you back then.
I don't think I knew you back. But yeah, that show was boring AF.
Yeah, it definitely was. It sucked. I've hated Sufjan Stevens. Anyways, side note. So I just think St. Vincent is the perfect package. She is an amazing songwriter. She's an incredible musician. She does have that classic, 50s movie star look, like just that kind of crazy elegance or whatever. And she seems so cool, just like no matter what interview she's doing or no matter what thing she's doing, she's always like, I only spent 20 minutes with her doing my interview, but it was like we were friends, chit-chatting like we've known each other for years, and she just is so naturally, friendly friendly or
She
whatever,
seems so composed, all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And was the funny thing is that when I did that interview, this was 2014, and it was the week before she was going to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and do Lithium with Nirvana,
Mhm.
So when she
I
played
saw
it,
that.
she played it at the sound check that night with her band, okay, I'm like, I thought I witnessed something cool, like she was going to be doing that in her show, like, and I didn't want to spoil that for anybody, so I was like, oh my god, wait till you guys hear the encore, what she does for the encore is going to be so cool. And then it didn't happen. She didn't play it. It was just rehearsal for doing it with Nirvana at the end of the week, and I didn't know that, so when she didn't do it, I was like, what the fuck, why didn't she play that? But God, she was so good at the Slowdown front room when she was there years and years ago. That's probably like 2009 or so, 2008.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. But no, I think almost everything she's done is great. She did a record with David Byrne, a collaborative record with David Byrne, and it was really good. Her songs.
I to hear that was good. I remember you telling me that because I find David Byrne extremely boring and pretentious, but.
Well, I mean, I love the Talking Heads, but yeah, I've never really embraced his solo stuff, really.
Sure.
But this is pretty good. And I mean, her songs, in my opinion, are better because I like her more, sort of.
Right.
But David Byrne's stuff is still pretty cool. And the way they worked together was good. And then I didn't see them live on that tour, unfortunately, but I've seen video of it. And they do some Talking Heads songs and some of her solo stuff in the set, as well as the stuff from their album that they did together. But no, I think her catalog, I mean, I know this last one, Mass Seduction, is sort of controversial a little bit because it was, I forget the guy's name, the producer who does like Taylor Swift and some other people. And it was sort of like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to like this, It
wasn't Robert John Mutt Lang?
It was not Robert John Mutt Lang. No. But I mean, his name's probably on the record here somewhere, but who cares? It's not important. I was concerned it was going to suck, and honestly, I like every song but one on the album, so I wasn't too concerned.
It's pretty awesome.
It was
Which
different.
Song?
It was a song called
like?
Sugar Boy on here. I just think it sucks. I still hate it. I skip it when it comes on. But as far as favorite songs go, I would say the song Marrow. From her album Actor, amazing. That's I mean, these really aren't ranked, but that is actually my number one, my favorite St. Vincent song. Okay. Jesus Saves I Spend is great. That's on her debut album, Marry Me. Year of the Tiger, from the album Strange Mercy. Her self-titled album, she had a song called Digital Witness, which is a single. Most people probably know it. I still marvel at how great that song is, and listening to all the little things when I've been listening. If you listen to it in headphones, it's just a whole other world of stuff going on in that. And actually the song Mass Seduction off the Mass Seduction album is really good. It sounds like a Prince song. It's fucking masterful. It's really, really good. So I just think she's an amazing talent. Totally. I've seen her on every tour that she's done. And I mean, the one negative She produced the last Sleater-Kinney album, and that thing was a dog. But hey, they
Yeah,
can't
that album was weak.
It was very weak, yeah. And I don't know whether to blame her or Sleater-Kinney, honestly, but you know, Sleater-Kinney didn't suck until Vincent got in the mix. So I don't know. But anyways, I've seen her a number of times. She's amazing. From a club act at Slowdown to at the Holland Performing Arts Center last time, where she was just alone, no band, and just was performing with these giant screens behind her that would put these original movies that she had made that tied in with the songs. And it was a big production show. It was really cool. She's just amazing. I mean, she hasn't made a bad, except for, what was the stupid song?
Was it just a solo, like when you say by herself, was it like an acoustic act?
No, she was there with an electric guitar and she would sing live. The rest of the instruments were pre-recorded.
Oh, okay.
So she was playing live to a tape of her early stuff and then actually of her songs. And that's actually how she started, because on the first tour, she didn't have a band. She just stood by herself and played guitar and sang live to a backing tracks. Yeah. So that was her first, that was how she started. And now it was like this huge production, giant screens. And, you know, it was cool though.
I saw a bit of her play at Lollapalooza. They had it like live and you could stream it. And while I was waiting for Beyonce, she was on and she was just like ripping it with that guitar. And I was like, okay. Because when I first like heard her, Digital Witness, that was such a popular hit. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I like it. Not sure how I feel about her. And then I saw that. I'm like, fuck, like this girl, she's got it. So
yeah, another thing to look for on YouTube is her her first performance on Austin City Limits. Okay, it was in support of the Actor album, which is that orange record right behind my head right there. That's my autographed Actor. And so that band was my favorite band of hers. That was the same band that Keith and I saw at Slowdown.
Oh yeah.
And they were so good. And Austin City Limits is such a cool show anyways. It was a whole hour of her. It was fucking awesome. So I would look that up on YouTube. I'm sure it's there.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Anything else on Annie Clark, aka St. Vincent?
I think we've covered it.
Okay. Yeah. So Keith, next up for you.
My next, speaking of other Keith, unhealthy obsessions, Kate Bush. So I knew who Kate Bush was when I was younger, but I was intimidated by her. As her music is way too literary and crazy for 15-year-old me. But fast forward to 25, 26, 27-year-old me, then I started listening to her and I was obsessed with her. I mean, she's so seems so worldly and literary, and her voice is like nobody else's. Her voice is really, really, really does it for me. It's fantastic. And she's uber British, and I think that's so great because I'm obsessed with British culture and British music. And then, when you go back and read about her, how she was like this kid, 15, 16 years old, kind of writing all these songs in her bedroom. And she was kind of, quote unquote, discovered by David Gilmour. And
I didn't know that.
Helped her produce her first record. And this was in 76, 77, 78. This is the height of British punk.
Yeah.
So, but she's so different than that.
And started really young. Didn't she produce her first album was when she was 17 or something?
17 and 18 when and going back and now I have all her records and I like all her records, but I mean, just listen to her stuff and how she's always sounded so worldly and so much older than she was. And she did one tour, and in the tour she had umpteen 15 costume changes. She's a very theatrical person. She's a very thespian kind of person. But she never toured after that. She only did one tour of England. And I think it was I don't know. She probably went to mainland Europe, and I just don't know about it. But then after that, she only did sporadic one-off performances, really. But just her, I mean, my favorite stuff is, Hounds of Love is awesome. The Kick Inside, that album I just showed, is great. everything of hers is so good. But my favorite songs, I mean, there's a million of them, like Babushka, Running Up That Hill, of course. That song is the one that really drew me in. The song L'Amour means you, about you, Cloud Bursting, like all those songs are so good. But yeah, she's just definitely does it for me, and she still looks fantastic. And she every once in a while will do something. But yeah, she's definitely would be my number 2.
You know what's funny is St. Vincent used to get compared to Kate Bush all the time, and I don't think they're the similar at all.
I don't think they're similar at all either.
A little bit on St. Vincent's first album because it wasn't as guitar oriented,
right?
But I never heard it, and when I talked to St. Vincent and I mentioned the Kate Bush thing, she was just like, I love Kate Bush, she's great. I don't sound anything like Kate Bush.
No, she does.
One thing I do think is interesting is that often, even though I think Kate Bush is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I don't really think I sound like Kate Bush.
No, and
at all. And
it's a reference that a lot of people don't know anymore.
Exactly.
The commercials for the concert, they said, comparisons that were on the radio, said comparisons to Kate Bush. I'm like, you know what? The average 18-year-old doesn't remember Kate Bush.
No, God, no.
I mean, she hasn't performed in 35 years, so it's like
the cool 18-year-olds know who Kate Bush
sure,
is now.
Right.
But I know what you mean. It's not a current reference. I mean, she still makes records, and I'm not saying she's not a current artist, but I mean, yeah, most kids don't know who that is. I don't, and I think I don't really sound like Kate Bush, and I think it's interesting. I've sort of been able to evade it to some degree, but definitely earlier on in my career, there was just always a comparison to another female artist.
She's like, I don't get the comparison, and I'm like, I don't either.
I don't know anyone who sounds like Kate Bush.
Nobody sounds like Kate Bush.
No, and
I sounds like Kate Bush.
Her voice, her sound is just so defined. You're like, oh, this is Kate Bush. Like you don't even have to
you hear her, you're like, this could be no one else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit, I've never been a huge fan, but I did see her videos back in the 80s, and so I was pretty familiar with some of her stuff. And when I was shuffling this playlist, there was one song that came on, and I wish I could remember it. And I was like, this song is so fucking good. And I didn't write it down, and I don't remember which one it was because I put like 50 of her songs on this playlist. So I wish I could remember what it was because it was the first legit Kate Bush song that I was like, damn, this is fucking good. But hey, I can't remember what it was, so there's probably no point in mentioning it. But
yeah, I know she's definitely not for everybody, but man, just her stuff was so performance art driven, like her videos and stuff, like it was like ballet in it, and like it's so it's something that
seems like
had not been exposed to really until I was a little older.
Seems like her and like Peter Gabriel are like two peas in a pod. They're both very English. They're both very like literary, and they seem super smart. And their videos are always these like real abstract, like little movies almost. And they have flirtation with mainstream. I mean, Peter Gabriel had some big hits in the 80s, and Kate Bush had a big hit or two in the 80s. But for the most part, they've just been kind of on the periphery of the music scene.
Yeah, in America, absolutely. In England, Kate Bush was like huge, absolutely massively huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, in America, you total, 120 minutes alternative stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It used to be played on 120 minutes.
Right.
I could never get into Kate Bush. I love Running Up the Hill, but her voice is just so, I just can never get into it. But I love her as an artist. Like I agree everything you're saying, like it's so kind of ahead of its time. Especially considering when she started and how young she was, and to create something.
I know.
That form that no one would probably even consider listening to. So I wish I could love her more. The one cool thing that I thought was pretty awesome to hear, I was listening to this interview with Big Boy from Outkast, and that's his favorite singer is Kate Bush.
Oh, I didn't know that's
yeah. I was like, he goes, if there's one person I could work with, there's one person I have yet to work with, and that's Kate Bush, and she's my favorite.
That's very.
And he was like talking about all these people that he's worked with, and he still wants to work with Kate Bush. I'm like,
that's amazing.
I would love to hear Big Boy and Kate Bush collaborate on something.
Next up, Joey.
So I'm gonna say Gwen Stefani. Do I think she has like the most amazing voice ever? No.
It's unique, though.
But
It's unique.
I know it's very unique.
Yeah.
I kind of get like sometimes a Susie Sue and not really, but she, you know, sometimes she kind of goes into like this little high, like shrill type thing sometimes. And I kind of get I'm not Susie Sue, Kate Bush in a way where she kind of just kind of goes high all of a sudden and back to her regular singing voice. I noticed little elements like that when we were listening to these artists. And I don't know, Gwen Stefani, like every girl in the 90s was that girl that was like, hey, I'm in the boys club and I can be just as tough as the boys. And she's just awesome. You know, songs like Just a Girl and Spiderwebs. And I think their Talk Talk cover is still so awesome.
That real quick aside, Joie, I love that Talk Talk song. Their version's better.
You think so?
And this is me talking, and I'm obsessed. You know, this is me talking.
I kind of agree, but you know, you guys are you're such an 80s fan. I figured that would be the exact opposite. But
yeah, that's an unexpected admission. I did not think you would
it's true. And I never thought I would say that, but it's true. That cover, that video is so fucking cool.
Yeah, that video is really awesome.
I like Gwen Stefani. You know, I didn't like No Doubt when they first came out in the 90s. I just saw them as too mainstream. I didn't like it, you know, whatever. But I've honestly gone back and listened to it some more, and without the edge of all that 90s attitude and that I had back then. And I like it. I sort of, when I heard that song Hella Good that came out, that was so undeniably good a song and so fucking catchy that I'm just like, maybe I like No Doubt, you know?
Yeah. That is a good song. That bass is so awesome.
Yeah, I decided to go get like the greatest hits CD. And then I was just like, okay, Spiderwebs is really cool. And okay, now this song is cool. So whatever. I don't like the ballads, but I admit Gwen Stefani is pretty cool. I like her. And her first solo album is the only one I'm really familiar with. But I remember some of the songs on that being pretty good too.
Yeah, I think it's good. I like, you know, songs particularly like Holler Back Girl, when she brings in like a marching band. And working with Pharrell, I thought was like really good for her solo career. But I love Gwen Stefani. I want to be Gwen Stefani. I still have wanted to be her since I was 15. She's awesome. And I know she's doing country now, but who cares? But I just think for kind of like that rebel girl, like, I agree with you, Keith, like the pop level. I mean, but when I was 15, I was like, this chick's awesome. I want to be her.
Oh, that song, Just a Girl, that was one of the best pop songs I've ever heard. It still is.
Yeah, I mean,
classic. It's a classic.
They're a great pop band, but you know, they're punk. Like they just, you know, became. Yeah.
Well, and they can integrate all sorts of stuff like that song, Hey Baby, which is also about a girl fitting into the guy's scene. You know, I mean, it's more illicit on that song than
I thought it was about people who like pretend to be like who didn't like them back then, but now they go to the club and they're like, hey, my dad's
there's a reference to that. I sort of saw it as like her talk about like the backstage scene and how the girls want to hook up, you know, like their groupies and stuff are backstage, and the guys want to get with the groupies and all that, and that's not her scene. You know, she's not a part of that, but she lives in that world,
right?
You know, no question. So you know, I like that song. I mean, I wouldn't think I would, you know, but now that I've had a turnaround on No Doubt. Yeah,
they have a lot of good like there's a song Comforting Lie that's I think a really good punk song, even though it's on their second album. They just have a lot of surprising little like songs in there that aren't hits, but I
gotta say I don't understand that Bathwater song. It seems kind of gross to me. I don't get it.
I agree with that Bathwater song. I
don't understand what she's going for there, but
the song New is great from the movie Go. I don't think that was on any of their albums.
That's a great movie.
It is a great movie. And Ex-Girlfriend,
That's a
I
good
don't
one.
know.
Yeah, it's a good
I
one.
love her. Like I said, I know not many people would pick her like for voice wise, but I think she's incredibly talented and means a lot to me on who I've become. So go Gwen.
So
She
okay,
does.
we'll move to our final ones here.
Okay.
And my final one is Fiona Apple.
I knew
Very
it.
good choice.
This is her newest
Good
one,
choice.
Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
Very good choice.
I've been, infatuated with Fiona Apple since her first album came out, Title, back in '96. And she wasn't somebody that I thought I would like. I was very immersed in the indie world back then, but I worked part-time in a record store, and my boss, the manager, used to play every female artist, no matter who it was. If it was a new artist, he'd pop it in, and he just only liked female artists or with a group with a female singer, because he played the shit out of that Fiona Apple album
Yeah,
to the
so
point
good.
where I couldn't deny how great it was,
Yeah.
and the fact that she was 18 years old when she
Right.
made that album and wrote these songs that were so fucking deep and just like on another fucking level from certainly any 18-year-old, but honestly, most people who were on their like fifth or sixth album, and this was her debut and she was a kid. Phenomenal. Her voice is amazing. I like her attitude. She kind of just rejected stardom at some point, where she was just like, this is bullshit. Don't imitate people that you see on TV. Don't, be yourself, whatever. I mean, people made fun of her because they were just sort of like mocking her for sounding like a silly teenager, but she had something more going on. And she literally, as she says, every album she makes could be her last one because she literally doesn't care. She's not going to be pressured into doing something that she doesn't want to do. And that's why it takes 5 years between records, because she just does it when she wants to.
No, she doesn't make bad music. I mean, she just
and she hasn't made a bad record.
doesn't make
All
bad
of her
music.
stuff is good. She's evolved a lot over the years to that first album, which you could tell she worked with a professional producer because the arrangements were more streamlined, and it was great for the radio, and she has such a powerful voice.
Yeah.
And as she moved on in her career, when you get into like Extraordinary Machine and some of the other albums later on, and Fetch the Bolt Cutters and whatever, where she's producing it herself, and the arrangements are way unique, and sometimes they're super percussion oriented, and they're just very different. She's evolved in a great way over the years, and she just puts it all out there emotionally. Great artist, super talented. Not a bad song,
When
Agreed.
you talk about when you talk about people being intimidated by Norton, when you're talking about Kate Bush, to me, like that was a Fiona Apple. Like, the Criminal video, was it the Criminal video where they're in the water?
yeah, she was.
I was just like, shit, I love this song so much, but I don't know what to think of this girl, and I kind of love her. And I'm like, we don't even know how to like talk to her, or like, it's like, how can I be this person's friend? It's like, no, like.
Oh, I would be so scared to talk to her. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, she's great. I mean, I don't know much besides her debut, which is phenomenal, and a couple other like things that I've heard of hers, but her newest album I didn't think was too bad. There were some songs where I'm like, okay, this is a little too kooky for me, but no, I love Fiona Apple.
Yeah,
Good
she's
choice.
Great. She's great.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, as far as like favorite songs, Shadow Boxer is on her debut album. That's fucking awesome. The song I Know, which closes out her second album, When the Pawn, which is actually even better than the first album. Like, Title is phenomenal, but honestly, the second album, When the Pawn, is even better. Fast as You Can was on it, and that song I Know, and Limp, and a bunch of others is just excellent. Fast as You Can, I already mentioned that one.
That's great.
Her cover of Across the Universe by the Beatles, which is on the soundtrack to Pleasantville, is
Pleasantville.
so amazing. And I get all verklempt hearing it. You know what I mean? It's like, her voice on it is so fucking good. And that I mean, it's already kind of and it brings out emotions in the Beatles version, but Fiona Apple's version even more so. It's phenomenal.
The
And
Pleasantville soundtrack, side note, is actually really good. And because, yeah, I don't know if it's just
Did not
because
know
the
that.
songs on there, but it
That's
actually
actually kind of a good movie. But
not
yeah,
that-
I don't really know the soundtrack other than the Fiona song.
Okay.
You know, so that's the only one I know off of it. And then the final song I would say was Red, 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 which is a great tune off of her Extraordinary Machine album. I mean, bottom line is, I don't think she's made a bad track. And I understand what you mean a little bit on the Fetch the Bolt Cutters. I mean, I did a whole review, and at the time I was very jazzed on it. And I still like it a lot. But there are a couple of songs where I'm like, you know, I wish she would tighten up the arrangements a little bit. But, you know, whatever. She does what she does. I've only been able to see her one time, and she was opening for Coldplay. And so I had to see her as an opening act for a shitty band like that. And
please say you left after she played.
unfortunately, no, because the person I went with wanted to see Coldplay. And so
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
So I had to stay for Coldplay, who put on an entertaining show, even though they're like third-rate U2, honestly.
And that's not
Side
saying a
note.
lot.
I
Right, 'cause-
like that earlier. I like Coldplay's first album, the
I'm
Parachute
not sure.
album.
I'm not sure what's even on the first album, so I don't know. But
I
their,
like
sh-
it.
Actually,
their show was
okay.
entertaining. Like they put on a
Oh, yeah.
decent show. I mean, I'm not gonna say they weren't entertaining, but I don't care for them too much. But so I've only been able to see her one time. I did try to get backstage and meet her. You know, I've been on the radio for such a long time. I never ask for favors from the radio station. I just never ask for it. I get enough free shit as it is. I don't need to ask for stuff. But in this one case, I was like, I asked my boss at the station, I was like, can you get me backstage to meet Fiona Apple? I mean, I've never asked for anything. This is my ask. And all I got was a signed CD. She wasn't having a meet and greets or anything, so I
Oh.
couldn't do it. So I
That
missed
sucks.
out on my one chance. I wouldn't have known what to say, though, honestly. I would have frozen, I'm sure. Because she's just the ultimate. I mean, she's amazing. So there you go.
Yeah.
Fiona Apple. Amazing.
It was a good one.
She's
Okay.
amazing.
Okay, Keith, your number one, your last
number-
one.
Number one, total package for me. Looks, voice, especially voice, would be Annie Lennox, my favorite Eurythmics album.
Wow, that's a surprise. I mean, not that you like Annie Lennox or Eurythmics, but that she'd be your number one.
Yeah, like so. My Eurythmics liking goes back a long time. I remember my first memory of them was watching MTV at my cousin's house, and I was a little kid. My parents were like on vacation or something. I was staying with my older cousins. They were like in college, and I was like little, like 1983, probably 84.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the video for Sweet Dreams, which
Such
is
a
this
great
song.
video.
Gave me
Good.
nightmares when I was a kid.
So yes, like seeing a woman like that with like orange hair, and she's like all androgynous and like looked kind of mannish. I was like, what the fuck is this?
She freaked me out, man.
She freaked me out
That
too.
Sweet Dreams video, I swear to God, I had nightmares from that. I
did
I'm
too,
like, I loved it. Like,
but I was so mesmerized by it. So like, even when I was a little kid, I liked it. Like Eurythmics, and so then when I get older, you can buy your own music stuff. I always liked their stuff and like all their stuff, but because originally they were just her and Dave were just Dave Stewart were they were a couple at one point, but then they broke up. They were in a band called the Tourists, and then they became the Eurythmics, and they're
see Sonic Youth, it's possible.
yeah, that's right, Sonic Youth. So they, were this synth pop band, but with her soulful voice, and it was like crazy. It sounded so good. And then like when you get like they have other albums. They had that album like Revenge when they had like with Missionary Man and stuff. They had that sweet ass like R&B band behind them. And
I don't know that one.
yeah, it's so good. And like that song "Thorn in My Side's" on there. It's so good. Anyway, but yeah, her like look and voice, it just does it for me. And when she would like, she's pretty theatrical too.
Oh
so
yeah.
like in her video, when she'd put like wigs on it, I was like, oh my god, she's so hot. And but I hold up this album Savage because it's one of their last albums, and it's probably lesser known to maybe a lot of people. I don't know, but it has this song on it, which is my favorite song. It showcases her voice and her theatricality so well. It's called Beethoven. I love to listen to.
Does that record have "Would I Lie to You" on it?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know
Would I
Is
Lie
there
to You?
what's the popular song on there? Is there one?
No, the most popular song on this is probably "I Need a Man," but
Okay. I don't know that one. I don't think.
like I said, this wasn't a big hit. This was after their peak.
Oh,
This
Okay.
was like late '80s.
No, this pick surprised me from you, but Annie Lennox, I'm like, she's great. Like, her voice is phenomenal. Like, one of my favorite song performances, it's not necessarily my favorite song, but remember when they did VH1 used to have storytellers?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was just her. They did an acoustic, obviously, and they did "Here Comes the Rain Again." That's like still one of my favorite like live performances. I like that better than the actual recorded track. But no, Annie Lennox, my God, what a
She's amazing.
phenomenal voice. I agree. Like, I love how just she wasn't creepy. She was just this unique artist, with Sweet Dreams, and I don't know. And then she can do something like totally poppy and like bright and bubbly. Like, I love how dynamic she is. And
She's so good. Her solo stuff's good. Yeah, right, Joy. She does between the kind of darker stuff and the poppy stuff. But Dave, the album that
Would I Lie to You? Yeah.
that's "Be Yourself Tonight" is the name of the album.
Oh, okay.
Would
I remember
I
that
Lie to
video. That was just such a good song, and it was a good video. I think it was a performance video for the most part, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was it. Was the starts out was like her and this guy that she's dating, and then it's a performance video.
Okay, so I do remember that. Yeah. No, I'd still probably have, if I ever saw it again, that Sweet Dreams video, I'd probably have nightmares about it again. It was so weird with her with the red hair and wearing a suit and the cow. There's like a cow walking around in there, and
then Dave Stewart's he's in the field playing like a cello.
Yeah, what the fuck is he doing out there? It was just very confusing.
singing to the cows.
A lot of mixed messages.
Yeah,
I
a lot
didn't
of mixed
understand.
messages. Wow.
Yeah. So I just didn't understand it, but yeah, it did freak me out a lot.
But so I agree. Me too. But yeah, this album, Savage, this album, the song Beethoven, that's the best vocal performance of hers, and the lyrics are just so good.
Check
So
it out.
I'm gonna listen to that track. I'm not familiar with that one.
Great video too. Very British, of course, like everything they do. So yeah, that's number one.
Eurythmics broke up just because they were just they're just tired of each other or something.
I couldn't really answer that, because then you remember she, like, in the early 90s, she had like the album that had like Walking on Broken Glass on it.
Yeah, she had some big hits in the early 90s.
Right. But she just started doing solo stuff, and I don't know if they just took hiatus or broke up. I don't know the answer to that.
Because Dave Stewart's produced some cool artists. I mean, Tom Petty and the Ramones and some other people too, I'm sure. I'm only familiar with those two, but he was cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I have that song "Walking on Broken Glass" in my head.
I probably will too. And Would I Lie to You? I'll probably be watching that video after we stop.
That video. That's a great performance video. I watched that video.
Yeah. Okay, Joey, for the final artist of this episode.
Okay. I picked Ann Wilson of Heart.
It's a good one.
Very
good. I just I had to put her on there. It was like, this was such a hard topic, and I know I suggested it, so I kind of shooting myself in the foot. But Ann Wilson totally, grew up on Heart thanks to my mama. But yeah, her voice is just amazing. Obviously songs like Barracuda and Crazy on You are just iconic, and her range, like I said earlier, I just love that when women or anyone really can just hit like these amazing high notes and just carry it. She does amazing Led Zeppelin covers. Like,
I've heard some, yeah.
You ever, like, I've seen them live several times. They always bust out into a Led Zeppelin song, and she never disappoints. She can hit just as high as Robert Plant, if not higher. But yeah, like, even, I like their 80s stuff, like Alone and, but I still go back to the 70s. I think their 70s stuff is the best, but
Agree.
you know,
Yeah.
their 80s stuff is, you know, I hear it on the radio, like, oh yeah, but I'd
They-
rather have like the
Power
heavy
ballads.
rock and roll. That's my
Huge
favorite
power ballads.
part.
Yeah, no,
What?
I grew up on hearing Heart on the radio in the
Oh,
late
yeah.
70s, early 80s as a kid when I was
My
listening
parents
to
loved Heart.
Z92. They played Heart all the time, all that classic stuff from the 70s. And then I remember their glossy period by the late 80s, How Can I Get You Alone, and you know, those kinds of songs. They were massive hits. And you know, it's like a whole different era of Heart. And at the time, I remember being like, I don't know, I kind of like the 70s stuff better. And I still do. But now, removed from the time, I can appreciate those 80s hits more than I did back then. Because back then, I was a teenager in the late 80s. And I was just like, this isn't as good as Barracuda or Magic Man or
Yeah.
whatever. You know, those songs are so good and they're so rocking. And this is like, sounds like Chicago, you know? You know, that was what
Chicago.
Peter Cetera, you know, like with all those 80s.
Oh yeah,
songs.
the Almost Paradise. Wait, is that
I don't-
Cher?
That's Mike Reno.
That's Mike Reno. Oh, that's Mike Reno and Ann Wilson.
Yeah, that's Mike Reno and Ann Wilson.
Well, yeah, she sings that song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were talking about, okay.
Peter Cetera is Cher, and
Well, Peter Cetera is all those Chicago had a ton
I
of
know.
hits.
Yeah, I know.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not even remembering their hits. But they were all over the radio, and I sort of equated, you know, like songs like Alone. But now I can appreciate those 80s tunes, and you know, they're far removed from the era. It's like I can appreciate it now. I saw Heart once in the late 80s at the Civic Auditorium,
Yeah.
and I think the Black Crowes were the opening act.
Oh.
And
What a bummer.
no, they were good. I mean, I
Really?
used to really like the Black Crowes in their
Okay.
first couple records, but I thought they were cool. I thought Heart was good. And yeah, her voice held up live when I saw them, you know,
Yeah.
the one
I've
time.
seen them several times, and she can still wail like, which surprises me that some people can still have that range. And you know, I don't like saying like, well, how old she is, because she still looks, I still think they have aged amazingly, but
Yeah, I don't know if
I don't know.
they
Like you
look
just,
good.
yeah, like you just hear about, you know, some people like lose their voice and they can't sing like anymore. So they still hold up.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Dreamboat and Annie is, you know, such a great, you know, album. And yeah, I mean, their
even
70s
think-
stuff is my favorite.
I even think in the early 80s, they had a couple of records. I think one called Passion Play and one called, I can't remember the name. I have them actually in my collection. They weren't very popular because their popularity was huge up in the late 70s. They kind of started taking a dip in the 80s, and then they had the comeback with Alone and all of
Yeah,
that stuff.
what about Love and Alone?
What about Love? Yeah.
And what? Nothing at all.
But those albums from the early 80s that weren't very popular are actually still really good. They still had the original Heart band, you know, because Heart ditched all those the guys when they did the you know, Alone and all that stuff.
Right.
When they had the comeback, it was Ann and Nancy and backup musicians for the most part, you know. So
yeah, but they're always so good. They weren't like, they were just really good big power ballads. I love that stuff. You know, it wasn't like cheesy, shitty, you know, Starship, we built this city, you know. It was, you know, it was good stuff.
right, and they you know, they talk about it in their behind the music and stuff, but it's apparently, you know, the record label really was pushing them to kind of tart it up a little bit more. And
Totally.
you know, Nancy had the biggest fucking hair of anyone in the 80s practically. She had so much hair, and they would only shoot Anne from certain angles because they were like didn't want her to look like overweight or whatever.
She was a
And-
little bit
She was a
bigger
little
than
bit
Nancy.
at the time. She lost it again, you know, but whatever. And so they would only film her at different angles and, you know, shit like that. And, you know, it's too bad that they were treated that way, but at least they were still successful through it. You know,
Right.
if you did all that shit and then it was a failure, then you at least like, fuck, I did all that bullshit and it didn't even work, you know. But, you know, Hart had a second career because of that stuff. And that's why they're
They had
still
that
here
same
today.
experience. Oh, sorry. They
Go
had
ahead.
that same experience when they wrote Barracuda with, you know, the rumors of, you know, like the record labels and just
Oh,
how they
yeah.
wanted them to be something else, and you know that they were really lesbian sisters or whatever, and
so stupid.
There's just
yeah,
there's
like
no such
stupid
thing as lesbian
shit that
sisters.
women have to deal with all the time.
Is there
Right.
such a
And,
thing as lesbian sisters anyways? I mean, is that
what,
real?
What to if you were a yeah. That's some
It's
stupid
just
frat
so
boy
stupid.
myth that doesn't exist. Nobody would go down on their own sister. That's just
No,
you know.
it's disgusting.
Yeah.
No.
anyways, but I love the music they've produced to kind of say like, you know, F you to, we're going to do what we want to do. And it's awesome. It's not, yeah, like you said, power ballady. It's just good rock and roll.
It's good
Her voice
music.
is amazing. And they still hold up and they still rock it out. I've seen them like 5 times. They do not disappoint.
Yeah. No, they're
I
great.
mean,
They're
they don't
great.
disappoint. But
They're
yeah,
great.
that was one of my other favorites that had to be on the list. It was tough choices.
It was.
No, me too. I feel like I left a lot on the table there. All right, well, let's call it a day here. We've got a lot of good material here. So thanks again for appearing on the show.
Well, of course,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Always
and,
a pleasure.
Yeah.
We will do it again really soon.